Welcome, I'm Wes, the sewing machine repair guy, and this is the last video in our 5-part free course on how to repair sewing machines. So far, we've learned how machines work, we've cleaned our machine, and we learned about tension and timing. Well, now it's time to deal with troubles. What do I mean, troubles? Well, these are the problems that are not exactly straightforward. These are the problems that have not been discussed yet in the series, so basically everything else. But first, have you ever wondered how you could support the channel giving out all the secrets of sewing machine repair for free? You could be a Patreon like Jean. Jean gets to see all the videos before you do and also provide input to make the videos better. And that's all because Jean is a Master Mechanic Patreon. Do you shop on Amazon? Well, all you have to do is click on one of the affiliate links below and you don't even have to buy that product, but you can search for another product that you were going to buy anyway, and that still supports the channel. Let's get into it. Tension, timing, and troubles. Oh my! Let's look at a couple of troubles you might run across that we haven't talked about yet in this course. Error codes on computerized machines. Oh brother. Computerized machines often will give you an error code which leads to a possible fault in the machine. Here's a video I did about the infamous E6 error code on a Brother sewing machine. There was a period of time when Brother put some bushings in their machines that don't withstand the test of time. I noticed the clients I saw with this problem were the type that used their machines a lot. Like they sold things on Etsy or they used it for some commercial type of work. So these machines are really not industrial machines, and they were being used as industrial machines, and the bushings just were not made for that. Thread ripping. If the thread is catching on something in the thread path, then it causes the thread to rip. Or it could also be caused by excessive tension or inexpensive, very cheaply made thread. And over here you can see a video that I did on thread ripping. The key here is looking for needle strikes on the needle plate or elsewhere on the machine. Broken parts. This is where you're cleaning your machine and you look through the machine, you're getting to know this machine, and you're cleaning and you're looking for those broken parts. And it could be parts that are either broken or misaligned, or maybe even they're missing. All things you can look at while you're cleaning the machine and getting to know it. Things to look for. Gears. Gears, more gears, and gears. If you're looking at an older machine, like say 60s time frame, 60s, 70s, the gears that they use, the plastic gears in there, are garbage. They do not last 50 years. So make sure you're looking for those gears and you're looking for cracks in them or even parts that are missing. And I've got a few pictures here for you to look at, and you can see the gears that I've run across over my time. I've also seen springs that are either broken or worn out, or even the plastic tabs that hold the springs in place have broken off. Bobbin cases with needle strikes. That's another one. So that'll cause you to have a bird's nest underneath the fabric if you have needle strikes on your bobbin case. Evidence of a dropped machine. So sometimes sewing machines get dropped and weird things happen. In this video right here, we fixed a sewing machine that was dropped by realigning the shaft using a hammer. Electrical or electronic components. Now this can be scary for some people who haven't dealt with this sort of thing. It's not scary. You can do it. Just find a YouTube video that shows you how. So things like wiring that's frayed. A lot of these the old black singers that have, those are from many years ago, and the insulation that they use on there tends to crack and peel away. So check your wiring for brittleness. Check to see how the motor operates. Is there excessive sparking? Does it make really loud noises? Is it going really slow? Does the sewing machine power on? There are a lot of electrical or electronic components in the power supplies of these sewing machines, and any one of those components can cause it so that it doesn't even power on. That's something to look for. Does your foot pedal work? Now this is not always electronic. There are some foot pedals that use air, and you could have an air leak. But with electronic components, you may have an issue with the foot pedal itself or whatever the foot pedal is going to operate. And birds nesting. Like I've said before, one of the causes for birds nesting is you could have a needle strike on your bobbin case. Now, something else you have to look at when you have a needle strike on your bobbin case is going to be looking for the alignment of that bobbin case, because it has to be aligned just right so that the thread can get by when it should. And it's also got to return back. So there's a little spring in there. And it doesn't look like a spring, it's actually a little piece of metal that deflects. And that spring helps to return the bobbin case back to its correct position. If you have a bobbin case that has twisted underneath the needle plate, you're gonna have to pull it out, and one, you're probably gonna have to replace that bobbin case because it's plastic and it has now been altered in size. And two, you have retainers and the spring that return that bobbin case that need to be adjusted so that they're in the right position. So we've gone over a few things that you can look at in a sewing machine that are troubles, that are things that were not covered in the previous videos. So now we're going to do a little recap of what you do when you have a problem with your sewing machine. Now these first two steps should be done by the person who's using the machine. So this video is both for people who are using the machine, they're trying to fix their one machine, but it's also for people who are working on a lot of different machines. So the first two steps everybody should do first, whether you're sewing with your machine or you're a mechanic, and that is to rethread the machine. Rethread the machine. Pull all the thread out of there and start over from the beginning. And then the second one is replace the needle. A bent needle will cause all kinds of problems with your stitch. So replace that needle, and even if there's microscopic burrs on that needle, it needs to be replaced. Then you're going to clean the machine and look for troubles. So that was our second video in the series, is we cleaned our machine and we looked for troubles while we were cleaning that machine. And in fact, on that machine, we found some troubles with the tension, which is the next thing we're going to check, is the tension. Pull on the bobbin thread. So you can see here, this is, if you didn't catch it on the last video, this was done at the very end of the video. And this is actually an outtake where I made a mistake while I was filming and I didn't thread the machine correctly. Believe it or not, I made a mistake. So you can watch on this video that, yep, I had a bird's nest underneath. So then I'm looking at the tension and I'm trying to figure out what's wrong. So then I pull on the upper thread while lowering and raising the presser foot, and I felt no change in resistance, and that told me that my thread was not going through the upper tension assembly. Next one is to check the timing. So look at the hook to the needle timing. So take a look. This is an easy check you can do. You can look at it, see where the eye of the needle is in relation to that hook when it comes around. And then also we're going to look at the feed dog timing. So feed dog timing, you're going to see the fabric is just not feeding right. In fact, it may be trying to break needles on you and things like that, where you're just getting a terrible stitch, your fabric is feeding weird, and that could be your feed dog timing is off. And then your zigzag timing, and it's the same kind of thing where it's not going to feed right and it's not going to give you a good stitch. So that's something to look at. And then the last thing are some checks that we're going to do after we've checked that timing, some other checks that we can do. And here's our little list of the things that we'll check. You look at that needle plate. You're looking for ease of rotation of that machine. So you're going to turn the hand wheel and you're going to see how easy it is to turn. If you're putting a lot of effort into turning that hand wheel, then somewhere in that machine is something that is locked up and not working right. How easy is it to adjust the knobs? So look at the knobs, adjust the knobs. If they're really hard to move, and this machine's been sitting in a closet for 30 years, it's time to clean it out. And I have a video on that right here. Check all the belts, all the rubber in the machine. So you have a tire for your bobbin winder, you have belts that run the machine. There are some belts that are timing belts, so they'll have little ridges on them, and other belts that are smooth. So take a look at those. As belts age, sometimes the rubber cracks and sometimes the belt just wears away. So take a look at that. Did I mention gears? Yeah, check your gears. Especially older machines that use plastic gears, check the gears. Check those gears on those old Singers. Look for the alignment of various parts, so make sure things are moving the way they should. Just check the alignment as you move knobs and as you move the machine, rotate the machine. Take a look at how everything's aligned. And then again, looking for broken or missing parts. Sometimes when you pull a machine apart, little pieces fall out. So watch for that. Now once you've done all these checks and you're repairing a machine, there are some issues you run into. First off is getting parts. So I use sewing parts online for a lot of parts, and I also use eBay because a lot of people sell parts to vintage sewing machines on eBay. You won't find new parts to old machines anymore, and so you just have to go through eBay and try finding them that way. And I'll have links to the Sewing Parts Online website below in the description, and I think you can figure out how to get to eBay. Sometimes parts don't exist for machines. You've checked sewingpartsonline.com and eBay to no avail. It's time to get creative. Here's a plastic knob I repaired using epoxy. If you notice, I had to make a little trough in there to fill in where there was no longer any plastic. All the plastic pieces had gone, they were not inside the machine, so we got to make our own knob repair using epoxy. And then we also have a needle bar bracket that I repaired with JB Weld. Epoxy and JB Weld repairs are not 100% repairs. So when you do something like that, make sure you let the client know what you've done and why you've done it. Or you can tell them beforehand, would you like me to do this, right? Either way, you need to let the client know, because their choice is a broken sewing machine without a replacement part or a fixed sewing machine that may not last. So they need to know that you've done a repair that's not OEM specs. Other times you stumble upon a pain point for a lot of people when you find out that all Husqvarna Designer SE machines came with poor quality capacitors that renders the machine useless since parts aren't made anymore. So you decide to provide a parts kits and directions so people can fix the problem on their own and become somewhat of an authority of that type of machine, saving thousands of dollars for hundreds of people throughout the world. You know, like you do. What if it's really difficult to turn the knob of the sewing machine and you don't know what's causing the problem? How do I figure out which component is causing the problem of this knob that's really difficult to turn? There's a technique called half splitting. This is where you do something like remove the timing belt from between the upper and lower shaft to see which shaft is more difficult, and then you go on from there. So you'll take that timing belt off, you'll rotate the upper shaft and the lower shaft and see which one is still much more difficult to move, and that'll help you locate the component that's freezing up on you. Here are a few words of advice that I'd like to give anyone who wants to repair sewing machines, whether it's yours or someone else's. Take lots of pictures. If you haven't realized, I have taken lots of pictures throughout my time. Take more than you think you need, especially if you're going to be tearing a machine apart. So if you're doing an upper gear on one of those old Singer machines, you have to take apart the entire upper end of the machine, the needle bar, the presser foot, the presser foot lifter bar, all the cams that go with that. The upper shaft has to come out. Every piece above that causes the zigzag motion of the needle has to come out of the machine. Take lots of pictures, because all those pieces that are attached have little tiny adjustments and they have to be perfect when you're done. If you take pictures of all those little adjustments and put them right back to where you started with, when you put that machine back together, it'll be much easier to readjust all those adjustments and set them where they should be when you start out in a good position. I've learned that almost every time I took pictures, I missed some small detail that would have helped me reassemble the machine easier. Thank you so much for sticking with me to the end of this course. I hope you were able to get something out of it. I enjoyed putting this together, and I have lots of ideas for future videos as well. There are some big things coming to the channel because we're nearing a huge subscriber milestone. So make sure you subscribe so you won't miss out on any future videos. Thanks for watching.